The Nintendo GameCube has such a great library of games. So many unique titles overflowing with charm which helped define the console. But today marks the 20th anniversary of one game in particular. One game that will forever hold a special place in my heart. That game is none other than the greatest RPG on the GameCube, Tales of Symphonia. The Tales series, or Tales of series in Japan, is an action role-playing series developed by Namco, which eventually became Bandai Namco, who's made everything from Pac-Man to new Pokemon Snap. Symphonia is the fifth entry in the Tales series and the first one in 3D. Originally released for the GameCube in 2003, it introduced many gamers outside of Japan to the Tales series, and many Tales fans still consider it one of the best in the series. So, what makes this game so special? One of the best parts of Symphonia is its vibrant cast of characters. If you want a good example, look no further than the game's protagonist, Lloyd Irving. He might not be academically gifted, but he has an immaculate ability to empathize with others. His ability to understand other people's point of view and accept differences is a huge blessing to those around him. In other words, Lloyd is incredibly based. But it's also a bit of a double-edged sword, as there are times when he questions the legitimacy of his actions. This sort of self-reflection is one of the many small things that really add to his characterization. There's also Lloyd's best friend Genus, a child prodigy who's really skilled at magic and fights enemies with a kendama of all things. He may seem like an annoying 12-year-old at first, but he actually uses his sarcasm as a way of coping with both the hardship he faces and his personal insecurities. I won't talk about every character because we'd be here all day, but know that each character has their own development, which helps them let go of the past, focus on the future, forgive others, and most importantly, forgive themselves. The plot of Symphonia starts out simple enough. Help the Chosen release seals throughout the land to restore the world's life energy, called mana. But looks can be deceiving. Maybe there's more to the story beneath the surface. Maybe Colette loses her entire soul and becomes an empty husk as she completes the ritual. Maybe the angels guiding Colette are actually evil and are using her for their own personal gain. Maybe restoring mana in one world drains mana from another world, resulting in a universal struggle for balance, which also happens to be one of the main conflicts of the game. Just maybe. The amount of curveballs this game's story throws at you is enough to keep just about anyone hooked. As much as it pains me to say it, Tales of Symphonia isn't perfect. Some of the side quests in this game are rather unpleasant. Many of them have very limited time windows and mediocre rewards. There are also a handful of minigames which are absurd at best and downright unfair at worst. Not all the side quests are bad though. One side quest has you follow Genus and Mythos to the Fuji Mountains to find a cure for Rain's illness. I love this one because you get to watch the two of them bond over something they have in common. It's also where Mythos asks Genus if he would side with him or Lloyd if they ended up fighting, which is a subtle yet effective way of revealing his true feelings. Despite having less polished gameplay than later titles, Tales of Symphonia still holds up as a very influential JRPG, even after 2 decades. The amount of characterization among the cast and various themes throughout the game are still some of the most impactful I've ever seen. And honestly, I've only scratched the surface. I haven't even discussed the in-depth mechanics of unison and compound unison attacks, or how the character scene at the doctor's office in Flanor can impact the remainder of the game, or what happens if you collect all the Devil's Arm weapons and bring them to the totally not suspicious guy at the bottom of the Temple of Darkness. And that's because there's way too much content in this game for me to go over in a short YouTube video. And honestly, it would be a lot more satisfying if you experienced it all for yourself. If you've never played a Tales game, do yourself a favor and give it a try. Even after 20 years, Tales of Symphonia is still worth playing.